1, 2, 3, 4, now she's ready, now it's time. A Boston girl who knows true crime. She got cash, attitude, gonna put you in a dark mood. She knows Sunday, she knows summer. Now she's ready, now it's time. A Boston girl who knows true crime. She got cash, attitude, gonna put you in a dark mood. She knows Sunday, she knows summer, Penny after dark.
Hello and welcome to Danny After Dark. If you're new here, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss a notification or a new episode. Tonight is a special book review, and I'm really excited to go over it. Obviously, spoiler, the name is in the title of the episode, so you may already be familiar with this book, but if you are not, by all means, stick around. I'll tell you a bit about it and my thoughts on it as well. But other than that, we are just coming off of a long holiday weekend. If you are here in the States, today is President's Day. So a lot of us had the day off. So it's been an extra long weekend. So I know a lot of us are just kind of getting back to getting ready for the work week and all that fun stuff. So I know tonight might be a little bit more of a chill kind of attitude in relaxed setting. But other than that, I hope you guys are all doing well. And let's see who is here. Russell, good to see you. Beckham. Beckham is already messaging me about this. And I said, if you put up lives early and you comment on it, sometimes they're not there. By the time I came in, and Beckham, I had no idea that you commented this morning, but he says he did, so we'll take his word. Hey, James Watson, good to see you as always. Hey, Chris James, good to see you. Let's see. Hey, Worm. Tony Stewart. Oh, thank you. Yeah, today, I was just feeling like comfy vibes today. I'm not going to lie. So that's just kind of what we're going with. But thank you. What is this, James? Danny is wearing her burying a dead body clothes. I cannot confirm or deny. So we'll leave that out there. But thanks for outing me, James. Hey, Nick, good to see you, my fellow Massachusetts guy. I hope you are doing well. So, yes, and for those of you who are watching who are not in the chat, welcome. Thank you for joining. And at any point, feel free to jump on the chat. Everybody's a good group of people. So, yeah. So the book for tonight, before I jump into that, for those who are not already following me on social media, TikTok, Instagram, I did post on Friday on my Instagram account. And Nick, you might know this, and anybody else in the Massachusetts area. Yeah, it is. Today, freezing. And yesterday too, so cold here in Mass. Absolutely. Yeah. But this is New England. It could be like 80 tomorrow. Who knows? So Nick, if you know about this or if anybody else who's watching who's in Massachusetts knows, let me know. A friend of mine recommended a used bookstore that is in Burlington, Massachusetts. So she gave great reviews on it, said it's really good. So I was like, you know what? I had some free time on Friday. So I was like, I'll make the trek and check it out. So good, you guys. So good. I took screenshots of pictures of what I bought for the books. I bought 6 of them for under $40, which is insane. Because I think one of the books I bought alone would have been $35. And they all are so in such good condition. I never would have thought any of them were quote unquote used books. It blows my mind. So I'm really excited to dive into those books and talk to you guys about it. But yeah, if you guys are in the Massachusetts area and if Burlington is kind of in your general area, check out that bookstore. I was so impressed with all of their selections, but also the true crime selection was phenomenal. Like hands down, really good. Actually better than I've seen at some bookstores, to be completely honest. So like regular bookstores. So yeah, don't sleep on that used bookstore in Burlington. Check it out. Check it out. You will not be disappointed. So lots of book reviews to come and book recommendations, I am sure. Let's see. It's literally called Used Bookstore. Yeah, if you just search in Google Used Bookstore Burlington, I think it's like the Used Bookstore or something like that. It's something where you're like, wait a minute, no, there must be a name to the store. No, that's it. Yeah, you'll find it, but so good. So good. So, hey, Kane, welcome. Good to see you. James Watson. Yeah, no, for those of you who are wondering what James is talking about, during my True Crime and Chills, you guys like to see my cats come in the room. And one of them on, what night did we do it? Thursday. Yeah, decided to jump on there and bat at my pictures and get them all out of sorts. They're fine now, James. Calm down. But yeah, you guys like couldn't take that. They were knocked and not straight, which was funny. We used to have a million. We used to have Books a Million. Oh, I never heard of that. Barnes and Noble. Too sure if they're still around. We used to have Borders bookstores for a long time, but those have been closed for a while. I really liked that bookstore. We have, I think there's actually a Barnes and Noble in Burlington, not too far from where that Used Bookstore is that I'm talking about. But other than that, I can think of only one other Barnes and Noble location. Other than that, it's just like small kind of local bookstores, which if you can support small local bookstores, by all means do that. But yeah, Burlington is that by the Coat Factory. Funny. There is the store now. It's called Burlington. They got rid of the Coat Factory, and there are several locations here. Barnes and Noble on Route 1 in Norwood was great. Okay. I think there's a Barnes and Noble Route 1. Is it Saugus? Or somewhere in that area, I want to say. But I could be wrong because I don't go there very often. So not sure. Hi, Craig. Good to see you, hon. Hope you're doing well. So, okay. Yeah, other than that, by all means, you guys, especially here in the Northeast, it is the winter. So staying in and reading books is definitely happening more than usual this time of year. But yeah, I have a lot of good books to go over with you guys. I have a stack over there that I need to do a recommendation for you for. So stay tuned. But Peabody has Barnes and Noble. Okay. Yep, that's correct. They do. Yep, I haven't been there. I didn't even know that was still there, Chris. I used to go there a long time. I haven't been there in forever. Good to know it's still there, though. Let's see. Edward R. Hamilton bookseller. Oh, I've never heard of that, Kane. Never heard of that. Good to know. Yeah, Paul from the Paulcast also recommended to me, if you guys haven't heard of this site, and I'd never heard of it till he suggested it to me, is Abe Books, ABE. And that's where I got one of the books to do with the Manson case. And that was the only place I could find it, like the only place. And it was pretty cheap too. So I was thankful for that. So every once in a while, if I can't find something, like on Amazon or whatnot, I'll check out Abe Books, and sometimes they do have it. So, all right, I could go on about bookstores with you guys all night, but let's cross paths a little bit to another topic. So the book review that I have for you guys tonight is a book called The City of the Living, and this is by Nicola LaJoya, and it is a big book, and I will kind of give you guys a premise of what's it about, as well as my thoughts on it. So just so that you guys know what it's about, if you have not already heard of it, it is closely based on the true story of one of the most shocking crimes in recent Italian history. The City of the Living is a spellbinding, intoxicating journey into the darkest corners of contemporary Rome. In March 2016, in a nondescript apartment on the outskirts of Italy's capital, Manuel Fofo and Marco Prato, two quote-unquote ordinary young men from good families, brutally murdered 23-year-old Luca Ferrani. News of the seemingly inexplicable crime sent shockwaves through the Italian capital and beyond. What motivated such violence? Were the killers evil, or were they victims of societal evils? Were they even aware of what they were doing? Razor sharp, unputdownable, and provocative. The City of the Living tells a story of not only the single monstrous crime, but of human nature itself, of the tension between the drive to oppress and the desire to be free, of who we are and who we can and sometimes do become. So that is, in the briefest of nutshells, what the book is about. So as I'm kind of going through this with you guys, I will jump back into the chat to make sure that if you guys have any questions or comments on this, that I'm responding to that as well. So again, this is a larger book, which is awesome because for those of you who love to read, I can't get enough. I can't get enough. So when there are large books, I'm like, yes, we're going to be jam-packed with information here. And this book did not disappoint. So for those of you who are wondering, it is 430 pages. The book is great for someone who is into true crime, thrillers, and suspense novels. If you're not into, I know a lot of the books I recommend on this channel are very, let's say, heavy true crime focused with a lot of specific details about crimes, pictures about crimes. I'll just say the word gory. A lot of true crime books can be gory. This isn't that typical style in regards to, there's no pictures of the crimes. It does go into depth of the murder that occurs, but I don't find it overtly, too gory. I find if that's something that you can't quite handle, then this book would still give you that sense of, I'm getting some true crime information. I'm getting a thriller. I'm getting a suspense book, but it's not too much. I'm not getting too much violence and too much gore. Let's see. What is, okay, I see y'all are saying, Danny, what is going on in the chat here? No, unput down. That is the word that is used here. I described it right from there. Writing on it because I didn't want to misinterpret or say anything because I butcher words all the time. So don't take that up with me, James. Take it elsewhere. And if that's the worst thing about this episode, then you know what? Then this is a damn good book. If that's your only complaint. Let's see. Hi, Tony L. Good to see you. Fiddle, welcome. Capone, hello. Yeah, a bunch of you guys are just jumping in now. Let's see. James says, I just can't read books anymore, and I'm not into audiobooks. Oh, Jesus Christ. I don't know if it's on Audible. That I will say, just because I'm very old-fashioned, like this book, City of the Living, because I am so old-fashioned, I like to sit and read a book. I'm sure it is if you check it on Amazon, but I don't know for sure, so don't quote me. Let's see. Hi, the better Paul. Good to see you. Welcome. Okay, there was one more comment that there was a Danny. What is this? Danny needs to 30-second timeout and open the door just in case. No, not tonight. They're reserved for the true crime and chills. All right, back into the book. So the way the book starts out, it gives great information into Italy itself, Rome, by the locations of everywhere involved in the storyline. It gives an incredibly large amount of detail to the point where you can actually envision the places that they're saying, and you actually feel you are following along as the book unfolds. At first, when it was getting into as much detail as it was of the locations, before I kind of read the book throughout, I was like, okay, they're giving a lot, like they spent a lot of time at the beginning laying out Rome and all of the places involved here. And I was like, okay, this was a lot. But as it went on, I was like, all right, there was a purpose for that. And I'm glad they did that because I've never been to Italy. I know nothing about that country except, kind of what we see online. So to follow it in this book, it's very different. And I want to make note of, this is not a description of the type of Italy, type of Rome, where, you see on, Instagram pictures, that type of fabulous city culture. It is actually the complete opposite. It takes you along the dark sides of the cities where rats, garbage, and more of a seedier viewpoint, if you will. So I found that interesting because I know nothing about that for this country. And it was very at times it was very sad to kind of read and think, wow, I did not realize that this area existed. Let's see. Again, as you read the book, it gives you a lot of detail where you go as you follow. It also goes really into depth. I don't want to give like the whole story away necessarily, because I want you guys to get this book and read it for yourself. But I'll give you guys a background of it and just a little bit of my thoughts so you guys have enough to kind of go forward. But it goes really into depth out of the two killers that were mentioned in the description of the book, Manuel Fofo and Marco Prado. It goes really in depth to both of their backgrounds, meaning their family life, their education, their friends, their jobs, their sexual history, and their sexuality. And if you're asking, well, why does all of that matter? It so matters, and it plays into the plot and to why this crime occurred. You know, a lot of times when we think of somebody committing a crime, whether it is, you know, just a non-murderous crime, or in this case where a murder does occur, just in true crime in general, we always, as a society and as someone who is into the type of true crime culture where we want answers, we want to know what makes a person do what they do. Going into the background of them so in depth, I found really fascinating. And I'm into psychology is my thing. So I always try to look for little pieces of, okay, we're dipping really hard into the family life here. What is it that I can take out of this that would make what is going to happen or what did happen make more sense? And for both Manuel and Marco, you find so many pieces to the puzzle, if you will, when you read about, again, all of these things: family life, education, friends, jobs, their sexual history, and their sexuality. There are pieces for each of them that fit to make, I hate to say sense, because you can never make sense of a crime, but sense into what led these two individuals to get to the night of when the murder took place. I know, with that being said, how do I word this kind of politely? There are also, for every, as you're reading the story, we all have that kind of attitude. Well, wait a minute, I'll just use the example. If somebody was, abused growing up. Well, yes, this, could that make sense as to why this person kind of went on to commit further crimes because of the background that they had? It does. That could be an answer to it. But then we can also form the argument, well, wait a minute, there are 500 other people that were abused growing up and they didn't go on to commit these type of crimes. So that's something I kind of, as I'm putting these pieces together, kind of mindful of, and I'm sure as viewers, you guys would be kind of thinking the same thing too, because I think we relate on a lot of this, as it's not an excuse. It's not, one person growing up this way and another aren't going to necessarily go on and do the same thing and commit a crime. And why is that? But some of the times those pieces make a lot of sense. And especially when there's so many pieces to it, there's not just one individual thing that makes somebody quote unquote snap. So getting such a particular background of these quote unquote offenders that commit this crime was really beneficial as the story goes on. And again, if you guys are into psychology, you're going to have a fantastic time as the book goes on, kind of, trying to get more information out of each of those areas. Just let's see, a few people have jumped into the chat. Hey, Paul Cass, good to see you. I mentioned you earlier. Everybody was talking about kind of different bookstores, and I mentioned that you had recommended to me Abe Books, and that's a great one. So just in case you heard I was talking about you, I wasn't trash talking you, not this time at least. Let's see. Okay. All right, perfect. So the book not only goes into the people who commit the crimes, but it goes into depth of the victim, Luca Varani, his family life, education, friends, jobs, alleged job as a prostitute, as well as his girlfriend. And I found that very fascinating because it gave a different type of look at what one of the victims could be, which you don't always see in a lot of true crime books. And let me explain why. And there are so many books that, and we see this, okay, the best example I can give is in the Manson murders with, Sharon Tate, and Abigail Folger, Wojciech Frykowski, Stephen Parent, where, everybody's human, everybody's so complex. Not everybody has this one side to them. There is also usually another. And I get it that people don't want to speak negatively of victims. I get that. I respect that. But at the same time, we want information to we want the whole picture of the victim and what they are like, what they were doing, who were they as a person, and get a better understanding of, were there any actions that nothing can justify leading up to ultimately their demise, but to kind of follow along in the story of, were there choices that were made that ultimately put this individual in harm's way to the paths of the killer. And in this case, yes, there were. So to understand and to get information about not only the positives about Luka, but also some of the, I don't want to say negatives, because that was just life and you had to do what you do to get by. But it was interesting because a lot of true crime books don't get into the victims like that. And I found it great that they didn't hold back on any information about anybody here that they discussed about the good, the bad, the ugly. They just laid it all out. And I really liked that because it just gave me more information to kind of follow along with the story as it goes. I'm just scrolling through the chat as you guys go by. Okay. So in regards to when the murder occurs, it does go in depth into that. But again, it is not gory. It is perfect for somebody who doesn't mind that type of information, but it's also perfect for somebody who can't take regular true crime reading. And as my audience, some of you guys do fit that. I know, because we've talked about that and messaged about that. I'll use the example of, when I covered the Jeffrey Dahmer documentary, me and my co-host, Mr. Beckham, we did that. And that was one episode where some of you guys were like, I just can't listen to it. I can't listen to that type of case. It's too much. Understandable. There's some topics where some of the gore is just way too much. This book, it isn't like that. It doesn't get that far into it. It gives you a full sense of what happened, but it doesn't do it overtly where you're like, okay, enough. I get what you're saying. It doesn't do that. So I just want to emphasize that a lot, because I know that's one of the things that weekly, as I talk about cases, sometimes as I'm doing it, you guys are like, oh, a little much. And I get that. So when we get to after the murder occurs, Manuel confessed the murder to his father and his brother, that he was high on cocaine, and he did this while they were driving back from their uncle's funeral. His brother and father, during this car ride back, were kind of struggling, like, what? This doesn't seem real. This doesn't make sense, but Manuel doesn't lie. So again, I'm trying to cram a lot of pages here into just a brief summary, but they believe their son, and they believe that he may have well committed a murder. So they get in touch with an attorney, and the police go into the apartment, and yes, in fact, there was. So Marco Prado, who is also involved in this as one of the killers of the crime, he is found because he tried to kill himself in a hotel after, but failed. So the book, and it goes a lot into going back and forth between Manuel's recollection of the events leading up to the murder as well as Marco's. So it kind of jumps back and forth. And some of the time it's very clear that they don't recall some of the details, where in other cases they recall and they either take full responsibility or kind of back off with no responsibility. But with that being said, when the murders happened, they were both on a multi-day cocaine and alcohol binge. So things were very fuzzy, very hazy, and some of the actions as they're unfolding, you can kind of tell as the reader that even Marco and Manuel, aren't understanding and fully comprehending the actions that they're doing as they're unfolding. This plays a factor in their, I use quote unquote decision making, because yeah, you might feel different. There seems to be a different vibe here in regards to whether some people think that, because I tried to go on different sites and kind of get reviews about what people took away from this and what their thoughts were on this crime, even though it lays everything out. Again, when it comes to this, there's the, did people feel they were, they only did this because they were on that cocaine and alcohol binge? Or do they think, no, that played a part, but their upbringing in their life played a factor into this? You know what I mean? And we see this with true crime in general, with regular cases. What led to the action? Not everybody always agrees. So I did read some blogs in reviews to get a sense of where were people going with this? What did they think was the reason for why these two individuals committed this horrible murder against Luka? And it seemed a little split from where I was kind of reading reviews. And I found that actually a good thing. I found that a good thing because I like to be challenged, and I like to see, well, you know what? I think of it this way, and maybe it occurred in this direction because of X, Y, and Z, but you're thinking it happened here. Why is that? Was there something I overlooked? Was there something I missed? Or, gee, you make a great point in referencing that. I didn't put as much stock into that one detail, but you know what? You're right. It plays a big part in this. And so that's what I tend to look for as a reader. So this book, again, there's so many avenues that it goes down. There's something for everybody in regards to what you're looking for as to why somebody commits the crime that they do. Hi, Sam Smith. Welcome. Good to see you. Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Let's see. Sam says, don't watch some videos with living victims. No idea what y'all talking about, but that's all right. That's all right. So let's see, where was I in regards to Marco and Manuel? So as we can all kind of guess what happens is when Marco and Manuel are arrested and in jail and with their attorneys and kind of going through their recollections of the crime. Again, they were on a cocaine and alcohol binge. They weren't thinking right in general. But now that they are coming down off of that and they're with their attorneys and kind of replaying things in their head, they are, as you can expect, putting some of the blame of the crimes on each other, as well as not only did the other do the action and, I didn't, I just sat there type of thing, but also they're putting the manipulation on each other. And if you're wondering where that is, what's that referring to, you'll have to read it. It gets so into it. I don't even want to try to sum it up because the book does such a good job on that. I want you guys to read it for yourself. But there's manipulation on many levels: emotional, sexual, physical. So this book goes in 5 million directions, but in the best way and the most clearest way, which as I was writing my notes for this, I was like, wow, there's so many directions I could go in and trying to recap for you guys. And typically books like that, a listener, if you're doing it on Audible, or again, if you're, reading it physically, a viewer actually while you're reading it, could get lost, but not on this case. It is so well organized. You follow it clearly from A to Z. And that was really cool as I was reading it because you get a lot from it. The book has a lot of accounts from Manuel, Marco, and the victim Luka, their friends and family. There'll be chapters and sections dedicated to statements from all of, family, friends, people who grew up with them, maybe not having been in contact with them recently, but maybe, back in school when they were growing up. But again, all of that I think plays such an important role of, okay, I know who, Marco Prado is now based on, how he's describing himself in the novel, but it's great to get somebody who went to school with him, 15, 20 years ago and kind of describe what was his personality like back then? Has it changed? Has it stayed the same? Why has it changed? What circumstances in life led him to change as drastically the way he did? And you see that for everybody in this book: Manuel, Marco, and even the victim Luka as well. And Luka did have a longtime girlfriend in this book, and she plays quite a big part in this later on once the murder occurs. She, talking to the media and posting on her Facebook about losing her boyfriend. And it does show excerpts from that. And it really is telling. And even when, as his girlfriend, she's presented with some information about her boyfriend's, just to use the word that's used in the book, his prostitution, she was very, no, that's not him. But then there's just more and more backup information to support, and kind of to see her and the family kind of react to that. It's crushing, because again, no one ever wants to speak negatively about a victim, but the facts are the facts. And as when someone passes away, we need to look at everything. We need to look at an all-encompassing view on the person, and that happened to be the victim. So that was, but just to see her kind of reaction to that and kind of not brushing it away anymore because you can't, was really heartbreaking. But let's see. The book also, again, goes into a lot of the family and friends being in shock about the murders, not even because of the victim, but the murderers themselves, Marco and Manuel. There are some people that are this is not the person I know, that could never happen. And then on the flip side, and we see this with true crime as well, a lot of true crime cases out there, then there's those people that are like, yeah, I don't doubt this for a second that happened, and here's why. And of course, when I get to those parts of the book, I'm like, oh, all right, here we go. Lay it out. I want to know why you are not surprised this happened. I want to know your history with this individual, because I want to know what you see that the rest of society is not seeing. Hi, Shelly. Good to see you. Let's see. Just kind of quickly catching up in the chat. I know you guys are talking a little about things on your own, and that's fine. Oh, well, thank you so much. Good to see you. I hope you're doing well, Shelly. Okay. One thing that I found interesting about this case in regards to, as it goes deeper in on the book, is Manuel's father. As we see with a lot of, and I call them victims' families, and I'll explain why. And I've done this on other episodes too. So Marco and Manuel's family, I consider them victims as well, because, they're having to deal in the limelight, in the media, in the news about what their loved one did. And then they're put under pressure and spoken so negatively about, the parents, how could you raise someone like this? How did you not see this coming? Siblings, friends, we see this all the time. And I think I recently talked about that. I want to say sometime within the last 2 weeks on one of my other episodes. So again, I'm calling the family members of the offenders victims in this as well, because they are. So Manuel's father, he ends up going on a talk show where Marco's family chooses to stay silent. And I know kind of as we think about that, it's, there are pros and cons to both. In regards to Manuel's father going on a talk show, it does so much more harm than good. It just really wasn't the right choice to do. And it essentially gave Marco and his defense information on how Manuel and his family are kind of going forward with the case, because they were tried separately, and are going to be tried separately. That's very important to know that. Marco's father did stay silent for quite a while until he posted on his blog, which was a very interesting way to put a statement out there. And the statement that he did, and you can read it in the book, was, I had to read it a few times because it's just not the typical family response that you would get, the type of statement that you would get. But when you kind of understand Marco's background, his family, where he comes from, the post his father did makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. But without that background that the book gave, you wouldn't know that. But it's fascinating in itself. So again, how people react, I always find that fascinating when I'm looking at a case. And with this, there was nothing shy of that. So other few details about this book. Again, I'm just condensing a lot of it a little bit here for you guys to kind of get and say, you know what, I want to know more about this, so I'm going to go check that out. So let's see. The community in itself was outraged about this. And I was not too familiar because I've never been to Italy. I don't know what the community's like there. But in this book, it gives a good picture of the community saying Manuel and Marco they're going to get off on this. They felt they were either going to get completely off and not be charged, not serve any time, or would get light sentences because they were both from wealthy, well-to-do families. And again, we have covered so many cases here where you see that has happened in other true crime cases. Sam Smith, you came in late. So what you are wondering what I'm talking about is I'm doing a book review of this book, City of the Living by Nicola LaJoie. So that's what I'm talking about. It's also in the title, but yeah. No, for a few of you did come in late. So yeah, just to get you guys caught up on that. So again, just giving a brief recap on the book and then my opinions on it. If you came in late and you missed any of it, after this live is up, go back, check it out so that you are caught up as well. So let's see. Sam Smith, I'm giving you the star for that. Manny and Marco is that coded reference to Paul Cass and Beckham. You know what? It's so funny that you say that. I didn't think that, but that's so funny. Oh God, that's funny. Yeah, you're getting a star for that. Yeah, because they're not here in the chat right now, so who the heck knows? So, okay, as I was going over, and again, I'm almost done just kind of giving my recap to you guys about this book, is, again, the community thinks that the offenders in here are going to not have to serve any jail time, or if they do, will have very light sentences because they're from wealthy, well-to-do families. We see that time and time again with other true crime cases that happen in the news, even to this day, and those that we've covered in other cases. And it's very frustrating. And when that happens, it's always tough because we can see how much the community and the media can really drive the tone of what's going on. And when there is unrest and a feeling of unjust that happens, it's bad things can happen. And we've seen that. But in this case, luckily, it didn't go that far. But the community was well in their right to be vocal, saying this needs to be fair. They need to be charged. We don't think that's going to happen. But what does happen? So Manuel's trial does happen, and he gets sentenced to 30 years in jail. Marco, that does not happen because he commits and completes suicide in jail. So that's not where the book ends, though. There's still, after that happens, there's still so much more of the book that is fascinating. So again, what I really like about it is the psychology aspect of this book. What actions in the backgrounds of Marco and Manuel led to the murder of Luca. It was really interesting that they posted the WhatsApp messages between Marco, Manuel, and Luca, and it also shows that they tried to lure other men to the apartment before Luca was ultimately the one that went in there and got killed. So this book has an angle on everyone to focus on for true crime. So there was one quote in here that I want to read, and it's at the very, very end of the book. And I think it does such a good job of capturing the essence of what this book is trying to get across. But then also me as a psychology person, when I read that, I was like, oh my God, that statement is spot on and amazing. Hi, William Eddy. Good to see you. So the quote that I want to read for you guys is at the end where the book says, I could have speculated infinitely on whether Marco or Manuel was the greater manipulator, on how the frustrations of one and the effective deficits of the other had rendered them capable of unimaginable things. If, however, I had to point to the evil that immediately after the instinct for aggression seemed to me to precede any others, I would have traced it to a particular type of solitude. The solitude that, all of the more if crowded, causes us to rot inside our ego, and is one with the fear of not being understood, of being wounded, robbed, damaged. The fear that forms our invisible spheres that leads us to calculate in anguish, the fear through which even the good we try to do passes and is perverted. That is such to me, a strong statement in this book. I read that one statement probably like 5 times. I was like, so spot on, so spot on. It captures everything. And again, some of the reviews that I read from other people online, kind of what their takeaway was from this book as to what led, or what was the root of what led to the murders in this book. People took away different things, and I think that's really cool because there's so much that happens in here, and we're all going to focus on a little something and kind of go down that path. And this book does a great job in that. So let's just see where you guys are with the chat. Okay. So I would recommend this book to you guys. So this book was sent to me to read and kind of discuss, and I am very thankful for that a lot of the book recommendations that you guys make for me are spot on, this being one of them. And I wanted to make sure that I share that with you guys. So if this was something you are interested in, to by all means go and check it out. I did find it on Amazon, Abe Books, all of those, normal book places. In regards to like smaller bookstores, I don't know. I don't typically, I know we were talking earlier about the different bookstores. There is a Barnes & Noble, again, probably like a half hour from me. I have not been there in a bit, so I don't know if you go to like your local bookstore or your local Barnes & Noble, if it will be there. Check it out on their website first and see before you go. But again, find it on Amazon. And this book just came out, so it is new, which is really exciting because it's something that it's not like it's been out there for 20 years where it's one of those, all right, what we're reading about, times have changed in this culture and this location. So you can't relate to it. Here you can, because it's so new. So my only, and I wanted to just mention, my only kind of thing where I'm like, wait a minute, I'm a little unsure what this is, in regards to at the beginning of the book, the very front, it says this book is a work of fiction. Any references to historical events, real people, or real locales are used fictitiously. So I was like, okay, got it, as I was reading it. But then at the very, very end, when you finish the book, it says the story told in this book is true. Its reconstruction is the product of an extended work of documentation that includes legal proceedings along with reports, wiretap recordings, now definitive rulings, audio and video evidence, official statements, and interviews. So, but it also does say for some of the people involved in the story, but largely absent from the media, fictional names have been used out of discretion. So that I understood, but I was just like, wait a minute, at the beginning it said it's fiction, but at the end it says it's true. So I was a little confused as to why that was laid out that way, but that's neither here nor there. To me, that didn't make a make or break, deal moment with this book. I think it was awesome as it is. So anyway, yes, Tony Stewart. So the book is 430 pages. So it is a big book. So if you came in late, which I think you did, just go back and check out from the beginning. I kind of go in depth into this, but yeah, it is one of the larger books that I have had to read and review for you guys, but that is fine by me because I love to read anyway, so it doesn't matter. All right, so that is a recap of the book, my thoughts on the book. Again, I recommend it to everybody. Check it out. You can find it on Amazon and you won't be disappointed. Let's see. So if you guys have any other questions or comments on the book, by all means, let me know. I've been trying to follow along in the chat with you guys just so I didn't miss anything as I went. Let's see where you guys are saying. This wasn't, okay, you guys are doing, let's see. Okay, you guys are still talking about bookstores. That's fine. There's no good bookstore near me. Oh no, that's sad. That is so sad. That is so sad. Okay, you guys are talking about some current true crime stuff right now, which is fine. We can discuss that on my True Crime and Chill later this week. Let's see. Looks like 2,000 to 3,000 pages. Okay. I don't know. Maybe it's picking up on camera like that, but it's not. It is 430 pages exactly. So yes. So it is definitely a worthwhile read. You don't have to be intimidated because it's not 2,000 to 3,000 pages like Tony Stewart has interpreted. Let's see. Okay. All right. Yeah, the case that you guys are talking about in the chat right now, I will most likely be talking about later this week for the True Crime and Chill. So I don't want to comment too much on that. I want to put a pin in that and stay tuned for that. So, all right, you guys. So I'm going to wind this down. But again, that is a recap of the book that I wanted to share with you guys and recommend to you guys to pick up. If you have not already, The City of the Living by Nicola LaJoya. So again, you can find this anywhere like Amazon, Books, online. Check it out. 430 pages, but it is a good read. It flows really well. It's packed with a lot of information. If you are into true crime, you would love this. If you are into thrillers and suspense, you will love this. If you are a psychology person like me and really like to analyze people, you are going to love this because there are so many people in here where that's all you do. That's all you do. That's all I did. So anyway, so that is that for tonight. Thank you guys for joining me for another episode of Danny After Dark. I will be back later this week, again, with the weekly True Crime and Chill. Later this week as well over on the Paulcast Manson Saga discussion panel. So if you're not subscribed over there, check it out for all your Manson case needs. And then next week, I will be doing another long-awaited book recommendations video because the pile is growing and I still have a whole nother stack of books that I need to get through. So I need to start recommending them to you guys so I can clear it off there. That's how I'm putting it there. So I'm like, all right, if I see it, I'll make sure to do a video. So that will be for next week. And until next time, everybody, have a great night. And remember, we don't live in darkness. Darkness lives in us. Bye. See you soon.